Hi, Tanvi. Tremendous honor to have you on the podcast. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I am Tanvi. Thank you so much for inviting me over
Pleasure.
here. Uh, I am a counseling psychologist by profession, and I am also the co-founder of a mental health startup called Mental Ego, wherein we provide online counseling and therapy services.
Mm-hmm.
Along with that, I'm an internationally certified EFT practitioner,
Mm-hmm.
which is a trauma and approach that I use in my therapy sessions. Yeah, so that's about me, and I really look forward to the conversation.
Right. So the topic we are going to focus on is client-centered therapy. So let us start by asking what is client-centered therapy?
So see, as the name suggests, client-centered therapy is a approach in therapy which is mainly focused on the person that is there with you in the therapy room.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what happens is that when we are taking sessions as therapists, you're also human beings, right? So there will be a lot of thoughts in your mind as well. There will be a lot of preconceived notions that you will have
Mm-hmm.
also in your mind. But when it comes to a therapeutic setting, it's very important to understand that that therapy space is for the client.
Right.
So the responsibility of progressing in the therapy
Mm-hmm.
journey also
Mm-hmm.
lies a lot. The thing is that when you talk about client-centered therapy, it's more about what the client, in the
Mm-hmm.
therapy session,
Mm-hmm.
therapy process from themselves.
Right.
What is it that the client wants? What is it that the client needs? So in that way, it is more of a non-directive approach that it does not depend on where the therapist wants to take it, but it depends on
Mm-hmm.
where the client, is coming from and wants to go. So that way, it is more like focused on the client, their needs, and their personal experiences and their narrative of their concerns that they are sharing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So when can a client-centered therapy be used for therapeutic progress?
See, I believe that client-centered therapy, if you look at the components of it, it
Mm-hmm.
technically forms the basis of any therapeutic relationship.
Right.
So, what does client-centered therapy say that the relationship that you therapeutic relationship that you share with your client, it should be genuine.
Mm-hmm.
There should be unconditional positive regard that
Right.
if the client is bringing in something which uh, you know on a moral ground or some on your own preferences level, you might feel a
Mm-hmm.
little uncomfortable with anything, but still there has to be some unconditional positive regard that even if the client has done something wrong, you still give them that space to process that,
Right.
right? So when we talk about these elements of client-centered therapy, it becomes a foundation. So it's not that okay, this person should go for client-centered, this should not be. If you talk to any not anybody else, most of the therapists these days,
Mm-hmm.
they do have these elements of
Mm-hmm.
client-centered therapy in their practice. They do
Mm-hmm.
provide unconditional positive regard. They are genuine with whatever therapy process that they are following. So
Right.
all these things we do maintain confidentiality.
Mm-hmm.
There is this very important element of working with dignity as well. That
Mm-hmm.
client-centered means it's not just
Mm-hmm.
the client is not the problem themselves, right? It's their life experiences. It's a part of their life.
Right.
So there has to be a sense of dignity also that we need to
Mm-hmm.
give to the client, and it's okay that you're facing some problems, things have gone wrong, all these things
Mm-hmm.
have happened, but still it is a part of your life, and we are going to work through. So there
Right.
has to be a sense of dignity also, which sometimes gets missed when we talk
Mm-hmm.
about mental illness and this and that. But when we talk about therapy in general, it's not that one person should go for client centered and the other should not, because I think that's the foundation of very basic counseling and therapy, skills
Right.
that we learn in our training is yeah. So one or the other way, this will be a part of any
Mm-hmm.
therapeutic relationship that I can share with their therapist.
Mm-hmm. So, could you elaborate further on unconditional positive regard?
Yeah. So, unconditional positive regard is basically that, when we get trained as therapists, this is the first thing that one of the client
Mm-hmm.
comes to you and, they share something that on a personal level, not on a professional level, but on a personal level, you feel uncomfortable with. Or you
Mm-hmm.
don't agree with them, let's say. They
Mm-hmm.
have some point of view, they have some experiences, which you feel that, okay, no, this is not uh,
Mm-hmm.
what I believe in, or this is not what I support,
Mm-hmm.
right? In a therapeutic relationship, you need to go beyond that. So even if the client comes up with things which personally that do not fall in your comfort zone, or the client feels that they have done some mistake, and I
Right.
should, even if you feel like I have done this, I'm bad, I'm wrong, and this and that, all these things can come.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in that case, in the second case, it is very important for the client to feel
Mm-hmm.
that even though things have gone wrong, even though they might have done some mistake or something might have happened, there
Mm-hmm.
is someone who is there to provide them the support regardless of that,
Right.
right? We talk about unconditional love in relationships, let's say, right? Similarly, it's like a counterpart in therapeutic relationships that we provide unconditional positive regard that,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we know that things have gone wrong, but still I am here for you. Let's talk about it. Let's go. So that
Right.
is whether it does not have any ifs and buts. It's just that I am your therapist, you are my client. You have put in that trust in me to share whatever is going on, and we'll take that in a positive manner, in a positive. Now, by positive, it doesn't mean that you're validating something the client has done.
Okay. Okay.
So
Mm-hmm.
it should not be consumed that okay, if you did something wrong with someone, I'll
Mm-hmm.
validate that. No, that does not mean that
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say that okay, you've done that. There's a difference. There's a very thin line how you provide that unconditional positive regard also,
Mm-hmm.
right? Someone has done something wrong, let's say in a relationship with someone, anything, that's a
Mm-hmm.
client. There's a way that you convey that, I understand that, what you've done, you're feeling guilty for it, and I understand you did that mistake, but it's okay that it's good that you're acknowledging it.
Right.
So it's okay that you learn how even providing unconditional positive regard should not fall in, should not go to the extent where you start validating wrong behavior or
Okay.
things that ideally should not be done.
How can a psychotherapist provide empathy to their clients?
So when we talk about empathy, it is one of the acquired skills that we
Mm-hmm.
pick up, that we learn, and that is something that comes with a lot of practice. So if I talk about, if the viewers know that what empathy is very different from saying that, okay, I feel so bad for you,
Mm-hmm.
this should not have happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we say empathy, that people say that, getting into the shoes of other person, but
Mm-hmm.
it is basically just understanding that what the other person is going through, you're genuinely trying to understand their experience from their lens, right? So when we talk about providing empathy, one of the most important factors is that
Mm-hmm.
not judging their situation or their response to any
Right.
situation from your own lens. If this would have happened to me, I would have not reacted like this. Why is this person doing that?
Mm-hmm.
This is not such a huge issue. I know this is difficult, but there's a different way to react to it. So
Mm-hmm.
what we're doing in that situation is we're feeling bad for that person. That's sympathizing with them. But at
Right.
the same time, we're also telling them how to react to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not empathy. Empathy is trying to understand, even if you don't actually understand completely, because I believe nobody can 100% understand anyone else's experience, even if
Right.
you are a trained professional. You can try to reach that level, but it is not your lived experience. It is someone else's. So
Mm-hmm.
there is only an extent to which you can empathize, you can understand, you can feel for them.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, even you can't even fathom what they are going through.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about empathy, yes, it is like you are trying to understand their situation, their feelings from their point of view.
Right.
That's what exactly means that you're getting into someone else's shoes. So this is a
Mm-hmm.
very common phrase which is used for empathy whenever we talk about in academic settings and all
Mm-hmm.
those things. But actually doing that takes a lot of practice.
Mm-hmm.
So and empathy is not just about, like you said, that how to convey. So it is not just conveyed by someone said that, okay, I am going through XYZ situation, and you just say that, oh, I'm so sorry you're going through this, I can understand. When you're trying to empathize, one of the main elements that, like we talked about in client-centered therapy, is genuineness. So if
Right.
you're genuinely feeling for the person, if
Mm-hmm.
you're genuinely trying to understand, you say that out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes what I do is that there are situations where I cannot understand what the person is going through because their experience is, so intense that probably I can even, me saying that I understand what you're going through can actually minimize their problem.
Mm-hmm.
So as a psychotherapist, it is also very important to understand that at what point do you say I can understand?
Mm-hmm.
Although these are just three simple words. So the other person can feel that, how do you understand? You have not gone through this, right? How are you minimize? I mean, what makes you think that you can understand my pain?
Mm-hmm.
So empathizing does not only mean that you need to understand. Empathizing can also mean that you just convey that I am so sorry, I can't even understand, I can't even imagine what you must be going through.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
Right.
if I am going through something, if I'm going through that, I can't even imagine what you're going through. Probably that will be more, in a way, like
Okay.
I would feel more understood. That
Mm-hmm.
yes, it is something for me. And yes,
Mm-hmm.
not a lot of people can find that kind of suffering. So
Right.
that's what you learn when you connect with a lot of people, when you connect with a lot of clients. You learn about so many different experiences because obviously as a human, the single human being, you can't have all those experiences in your life. But when you connect with a lot of people, you understand that I am a trained professional,
Mm-hmm.
but still I can't understand everything. And that is
Mm-hmm.
also okay. That is also emphasizing to a point because I can't. And that is what the person is here for because people are not able to understand. So
Mm-hmm.
empathizing verbally, non-verbally, if you're connecting with face-to-face in-person sessions, even that is very important. Your facial expressions, your body language, everything should be congruent. So in client-centered therapy, it is also one of the things that congruence is one of the factors that what the client is saying,
Mm-hmm.
what you are trying to convey should be on the same page. And at the
Okay.
same time, what you are conveying, what verbally conveying, and what you're non-verbally, your body is conveying should also be the same. Verbally,
Mm-hmm.
I can say I'm so sorry you're going through that. I can understand you're feeling so sad. And then I'm just leaning back and I'm just, my body is not saying that I'm actually concerned, but
Right.
I'm just saying what I have learned in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that shows. The client can very easily pick that up that, okay, this person is just saying this because he
Not
has to.
interested. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
So that kind of genuineness and congruency needs to be there because empathy is just not about learning four
Mm-hmm.
empathetic lines and using them. It's also about genuinely feeling that first. And then trying to convey it in a way that the client actually, is able to grasp that, okay, I see she's actually able to understand. Or even if she's not able to understand, at least she's there and she's trying to do it. She's there to listen to you.
Mm. So,
Yeah.
how
That's
can
just
a
what it is.
yeah, how can a therapist display congruence to their patients, to their clients?
Yeah. So, when we talk about congruence, what we say, the technical meaning of congruence is that, if you have one figure, what we learn
Mm-hmm.
in maths, if you have one figure, you have other figure, they should overlap completely,
Right.
right? If they don't, they're not congruent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, in a therapeutic setting, let's say if a client is talking about one, two, three, five, four, five problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the therapist in their mind, because they have practiced over a time, because they have listened to similar experiences probably before, because they have their own understanding and their own professional training and everything. What happens is a lot of times that the client is at level A, they're
Mm-hmm.
sharing something, they're talking about something. Let's say they're talking about a breakup, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about this happened, I'm feeling this, they did this,
Right.
all that story.
Right.
But what is happening in the therapist's mind? They are maybe thinking about, okay, so maybe if she's saying this, maybe this is what have happened. Maybe this is what her past experience would have been like.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is a lot of times in a therapeutic setting, the pace at which the client is and the pace at which the therapist's mind is running is not the same. So the
Okay.
therapist tends to jump to other conclusions or tends to create patterns, link patterns even before the therapist is the client is ready to do
Right.
that. So the client is still at level A and therapist probably is at level C or D.
Yeah.
And that's where that link, that synchronization breaks off. The
Mm-hmm.
second is that what the client is saying, if the client says, I'm feeling really frustrated,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the therapist says, I understand you feeling overwhelmed. These two are totally different things.
Yes.
For the therapist, it might mean the same. If I'm the therapist and if I say that, if the client says I'm feeling frustrated, I say, oh, I understand you're feeling overwhelmed and all those things. For me, it might be the same, but for the client, it might not be the same. They might say,
Mm-hmm.
no, I'm not feeling overwhelmed. And what will that imply in the client's mind? She's not listening to me. She's
Right.
making her own meanings, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
very important to pick up what the client is trying to say, try to understand their meaning of it. Even frustration can have a lot of different meanings for everyone. For you, it might be different. For me, it might be different. Your threshold level of frustration might be different. Mine might be different,
Mm-hmm.
right? So congruency means that you are trying to understand the client from their perspective and meeting them at the level where they are right now. If they are at level A, you also see them with them, be with them at level A only,
Right.
and take them together. Try to understand their verbatim, their vocabulary that they're using. That's what congruence is.
Right.
Yeah.
Very well put. What is your specialization and how can one contact you?
So like I said, I specialize in EFT. It's called emotional freedom technique. So ideally, I mean, in different sessions, I use an eclectic approach. I use CBT approaches as well. I use client-centered, as I said, is the foundation anyway. Um, for a trauma-informed approach, I use EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, which uses a lot of techniques, which involves tapping. So when if you know about acupressure, so EFT works in a similar way, but it is more of an emotional release technique.
Okay.
One of the major, I would say, benefits of EFT is that whenever we talk about trauma-informed approaches, what we do is we talk about the incident, we talk about the experience in itself, we talk about what caused that trauma, all those things. When a client does that, they talk about all those things, it in a way re-traumatizes them
Right.
because they're talking about the same thing again and again, right? And it takes a lot of time because obviously trauma is not a one-time thing that you just deal with, be it any approach. EFT, on the other hand, it does not. It is the main USP of this technique that it just re-traumatizes the person. You don't have to go back to the incident and talk about it again and again to
Okay.
process. And also, the other thing is that whatever emotions we feel, whatever, even the trauma that we experience, everything that gets stored in our body in very different ways. So, let's say if you've had, so this is one of the cases that I studied while I was getting certified, when I was getting trained in EFT, that there are a lot of people who have, like, let's say, arthritis, or they have a lot of other physical ailments which do not have any medical backing, which do not have any medical reasoning to it. It's just there. There's a pain in their limb that is just there. It has no reasoning. It just comes up. It does not get better with any medications or anything, right? So what the other thing is that when there are such physical ailments which do not really have any medical reasoning behind it, very high chances that it is because of any psychological or emotional distress that they are facing. So when we do EFT tapping and even matrix reimprinting is an advanced version of EFT, which goes in a little more in depth. So when we practice all these things, even not just for the emotional distress, their physical ailments also get affected, because once you have worked on the core, which is the emotional distress, the physical ailment, which is like a consequence of it, or your body telling you that something is bothering you, that also gets resolved eventually.
Okay.
Right? So when I say that it's a trauma-informed approach, it's a very holistic approach because it just does not focus on your emotions or your mental well-being. If any physical ailments are, associated with it, that also gets resolved. And relatively, it is a quicker trauma-informed approach. Plus point, we do not really have to talk about the same things again and again. So the person does not have to revisit those memories to process them.
Right.
There are ways to do that. Yeah, that's one of my specializations, and I usually work more with young adults and middle-aged people from different walks of life. So nothing specific to that, and sometimes couples as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And do you have a page or any link that people can connect?
Yeah, so we have a website called mentalego.com. That's that's where you can find me. That's exactly where I provide all my services, any one-on-one therapy sessions, workshops, group sessions, support groups, anything. So for any and everything, you can contact me over there, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible.
So why is it beneficial to label a person seeking therapy as a client instead of a patient?
Um, okay, when I use the term patient, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
That a person is not well.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about patient, the person is not well, the person is sick, they are not doing okay, right? Mental health in itself has a lot of stigma. Not even going to mental illness, mental health in itself means, this person is not fine. This person has gone mad and this and that.
Right.
Even though you're not even using the term client yet, but the term mental health in itself has a lot of, notions around it. So the moment I label it as patient, it actually says that yes, this person is sick, right? So it is like giving in to the stigma that is already there, agreeing to the fact that yes, the person is sick because he has mental health issues. The other thing is that like patient is used for the people who are sick, who are seeking treatment and all those things, and that is all fine. I believe that stigma is not because of the words, it's because of the meaning that we create around it. Right. Patient in itself has no stigma, right? But because mental health is anyway linked with mental illness only, it just funnels down more to this a person being a patient. And a person can seek therapy, can seek counseling, even if they don't have any mental illness per se, right? If I am having an exam, or even if I don't have an exam, even if I don't have any specific event or occasion coming up, I just want to talk about something, I can go for a mental health checkup. That's it. I can go for counseling. I can choose to go for regular counseling. I can choose to just go for monthly check-ins for my mental health check-in, and that's fine. So but when I call myself a patient, even the person themselves can be there or cannot be there. Who is seeking therapy, right? So it's because the meaning that we associate with it. So it's better that we call those people who seek therapy as clients, because they are just working on their mental health. It does not specifically mean that they are ill or that they are sick or they have any mental illness, because that is not the case. Right. Therapy and counseling can be taken up by literally anyone and any age group. So even that's not even a factor over there. So yeah.
Right. Okay. What is the effectiveness of client-centered therapy?
So when we talk about client-centered therapy, like I said, it's mostly like a foundation, right? No therapist can practice if they're not genuine with what they're expressing, if they're not congruent, if they're not at the same level with the client, if they are not able to provide that unconditional positive regard, because, like I said, it is one of the very basic things. Now, not all therapists follow that, because there are a lot of other approaches that exist, and that probably they resonate more with their clients, have benefited more. But when we talk about effectiveness of client-centered therapy, it is very effective, because who doesn't like to be, empathized? Who doesn't like to have a person who genuinely feels their, understands their emotions, or at least tries to do that? Who doesn't like a person in their life, even if it is a professional relationship, who is there to provide them unconditional positive regard with unconditional, support, that okay, something has happened, is there to help you get through, right? So let's not even go into the technicality of, let's not even say that this is the approach, this is the element, this is the benefit, just like thinking like a human being, right? What is it that I would need if I was in distress? This approach provides me that. So universally, yes, it is not going to harm anyone. Even if the therapist doesn't use it, that's their approach. But even if they do, it is not going to harm anyone. Genuineness is not going to harm anyone. Empathizing is not going to harm anyone.
Right.
So in that manner, it is definitely effective. But yes, it varies from the therapist and client relationship as well. The concern that they're talking about as well, and also the kind of concerns the client also has. Right? So if the client is actually diagnosed with any mental illness, then there will be a very different approach in that case. So a lot of factors playing, but then client-centered therapy in itself does not have any side effects or any disadvantages per se for a larger population.
So thank you, Tanvi, for taking out the time for the podcast. Again, a huge pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much, and I hope that I was able to answer your questions, and you got something out of it.
Yes. So I'll stop the recording.